Welcome back to the John Thome Podcast, a comedy podcast that occasionally opens the miscellaneous drawer to find UFOs, conspiracies, cults, fitness, MMA, pro wrestling, and any other assorted junk I want to talk about. He is I, and I am him, slim with the tilted brim. What's my name? John Thome. Today I want to talk about Conor McGregor versus Floyd Mayweather. You haven't heard enough about that yet. You haven't. You might think you have, but until you've heard me speak about it, you haven't. Yes, the podcast has been on hiatus for a hot minute. Since my last podcast, I've gone full vegan. But I'm suffering from fall allergies right now, and you'll just have to hear about those topics on a later date. Listen to the end, because that's when I give my prediction of how the fight's gonna go down. Now hit my music! Today I want to talk about Conor McGregor versus Floyd Mayweather in boxing, happening this Saturday, August 26th. And many of you that know me know that I'm a big UFC fan. I like watching UFC. I've been watching it for many years. Therefore, I've been watching Conor McGregor for many years. And I've been a fan of Conor McGregor for many years. Do I like everything he says or does? Not necessarily, no. But that's true in any aspect of life. It's not so cut and dry, black and white. There's layers, there's gray involved. But I like Conor McGregor, and I'll tell you why. Okay, he talks all this braggadocious smack to his opponents, and he, for the most part, backs it up. He backs it up. He creates interest in fights that he's involved in. He fights, and he usually wins in the way that he says he's going to win. And as a UFC fan, when he first came on the scene, I didn't believe the hype. I didn't believe his hype until he fought a guy named Dustin Poirier. And Conor talked his usual smack, but in my mind, I'm like, Dustin Poirier is a legit fighter, a legit top 10 fighter, and he's gonna finish this Conor dude. He's going to show that you can't just talk all this trash and that will win your fights. Come fight night, Conor comes out and whoops Dustin Poirier. And that's when I learned to quit doubting Conor McGregor. He's then gone on to do amazing things. He's won 2 titles in 2 different weight classes and pretty much called all his shots every single time he fought. And the only real stumble he had since he's been with the UFC is when he lost to Nate Diaz. And I'm a Nate Diaz fan too. Let me get that out of the way. But Conor landed massive shots on Nate Diaz in the first round, but Nate Diaz has an iron chin, an iron will, and Conor wasn't able to stop him. He gassed in the second round, and Nate Diaz rocked him in the second round and finished him. Submitted him. Nate Diaz is a master submission artist. And they had a rematch. And Conor won the rematch. And he won by a judge's decision. It went 5 rounds. In UFC championship fights or main events go 5 5-minute rounds. And the judges said Conor won. I don't think it was so cut and dry. When I initially watched it, I thought Nate Diaz won, but it was a close fight. And Conor did answer some of his critics because their first fight, he gassed out. This fight, he didn't gas out, or he conserved his energy better, if you will. That's another thing I want to talk about. When he lost to Nate Diaz, he handled it in a way that made me a bigger fan. He owned up to his loss. He didn't make excuses. He said he's going to work to get better. He's going to work to fix his errors, to have better cardio. And the next fight, he went out and proved it. He wasn't sitting out there. He didn't go silent. He answered all his critics. That's the thing about these fights. He talks all this smack. He creates interest. He puts skin in the game. And that's what makes fans want to watch. They're going to see if he loses, is he going to eat this crow? There's stakes to it, and the higher the stakes, the more interest there is. And Conor's a master of that. And when he had to eat crow, he ate crow, and he ate it in a way that made him have more fans. He created more fans. So then when he started talking about fighting Floyd Mayweather, I was like, whoa, that's crazy, but I understand it because Conor, at least, he's always talking about how he wants to make a lot of money. He makes these big paydays. He's all about the money. He's kind of like Floyd Mayweather in that way, where he talks about cash. The difference being fans like it when Conor talks about his lavish lifestyle, and they dislike it when Floyd talks about his lavish lifestyle. Nevertheless, I thought there was a chance of this happening because, like I told you earlier, I quit doubting Conor McGregor. He's a guy that makes things happen. He's a guy that makes things he says are going to happen. And I had a chance to host The Bottom Line, which is a sports radio talk show. Omaha World Herald puts it on. I got a chance to co-host it. I got to talk to Omaha World Herald's boxing reporter, Tony Boone, and I talked to him. I said, what do you think of the chances of a McGregor versus Mayweather fight happening? And he scoffed at me. He scoffed, and in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I don't get what there's to scoff at. And that's something I've learned after the Mayweather-McGregor fight got announced, is boxing purists, boxing fans don't even like to see themselves next to MMA guys. They kind of have a I'm better than you attitude, which is funny seeing how they're both combat sports where people hit each other in the head for entertainment. Let's not get all mightier than anyone right there, okay? Let's be for real. CTE is a real problem in both sports. But he scoffed. And he said, Mayweather would destroy McGregor. And I said, that's not the point of it. This fight's going to make hundreds of millions of dollars. That's a reason to make the fight happen for both guys. It's called prize fighting. And has McGregor proven himself as a boxer? No, he has not. But has he proven himself as a promoter and a draw? Yeah, he has several times over. So that makes sense. It makes sense to put on the fight because if the money's there, it makes literal sense. Lots of them. So that's kind of something I learned. Once this fight got announced, is just boxing reporters, boxing fans, they think it's an abomination to the sport that they love. The science, the sweet science of boxing, where you pummel someone for 12 rounds until they can't get up. Hey guys, when I was recording the initial body of this podcast, my computer froze for a minute or so, and so I've had to edit a part into this podcast, and it's a very poor edit, and it doesn't sound like it goes with the podcast, but I'm making you aware of that because that's how I deal with my insecurities. Here it goes. With that being said, I like boxing. And as a kid, every Saturday night I'd watch boxing at my parents' house on HBO. And I'd do shadow box in my room because I wanted to basically burn some calories. I was always working on my fitness, trying to get yoked, trying to get cut, trying to get diced up. So I'm a fan of boxing. I'm a bigger fan of MMA now than I am of boxing. But a good boxing fight I enjoy watching. I love Omaha's own Bud Crawford. Shout out to him. Shout out to Bud. But then they had these publicity, these public events, these press conferences. They went on a world tour. McGregor and Mayweather both went on a world tour. They went to LA, Toronto, New York, and Europe. And that's when it had its ups and downs, but I didn't enjoy that. I enjoyed some of it, but then 4 events was a little tedious, a little carnival-ish, a little WWE-ish. And McGregor, I felt like he felt like he needed to top himself. He felt like he needed to be way more over the top, say more ridiculous things, to the point of making me feel sympathy for Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather, domestic abuser, someone who does not really garner any sympathy, but Conor kept talking about how he has money problems and how he makes more money than Floyd and how he's younger than Floyd and how Floyd can't even read. Okay, let's look at this. Let's take a step back again. 100% of the fans watching this fight make less money than Conor. Does that mean they need to be made fun of? Floyd's older than you. Yeah, that's what happens in life. You grow older. I don't necessarily think age is a reason to make fun of someone. You can say you're going to win the fight because you're younger, you're faster, you're stronger. That makes sense. But if you're just saying, I'm younger than you, okay, that's not telling me anything. There's a lot of people younger than Floyd. There's a lot of people older than Floyd. I'm 33. Maybe I'm thinking about my own mortality a little bit and how I'm growing older. But don't make fun of people for being old, Conor. How about that? And saying that Floyd can't read, I don't know if that's true or not. But if it is, he's been very successful making a lot of money for being illiterate. That's one thing people need to realize too, is Floyd is kind of playing a character. This Money Mayweather, this I'm going to buy $4 million cars and I'm going to bet $1 million on the World Series and I'm going to post the ticket on Instagram. That's kind of a character. People want to watch him lose. And if they want to watch him lose, they're going to pay the pay-per-views for a pay-per-view and hope that he loses and hope that he gets knocked out and hope that he gets what's coming to him. But it hasn't happened because he is the greatest defensive boxer of all time. I'm not one to call him the greatest fighter of all time because I feel like, I don't know, personally, there's selfish reasons. I just don't find him that exciting to watch always. He's definitely skilled. He hasn't lost. I feel like he's ducked some people. I feel like the delay in the Manny-Pacquiao fight favored him, and that was a conscious decision. But Floyd, you got to give Floyd credit. He's 49-0. He's fought the best of the best and won. He's made a lot of money. He's created a character. He's created someone that people want to watch, whether it's because they want to watch him get hopefully knocked out or because they like him and they like seeing this lavish lifestyle and people have dreams of living that way sometime too. That could be the case. Regardless, it connects with people. It makes them want to watch. So that's where I feel like, yeah, I get the press conferences. They're doing this to drum up publicity. They're doing this to drum up conversation and talk and sports talk and water cooler talk on this fight. But this fight's going to have that on its own. And like the over-the-top stare downs and the kind of the gimmick, it felt really gimmicky. And I come from a past where I did UWF backyard wrestling in my backyard. I love gimmicks. But it has to be in the right place. Come on. Real talk. Hashtag real talk time. What do I think is going to happen in the fight? I haven't decided yet. Conor also had Paulie Malignaggi come in and spar with him. And Paulie Malignaggi is a former boxing champion, current Showtime analyst who's working the McGregor-Mayweather fight. Conor had him come in and be a sparring partner. And I felt like Conor did him dirty. Conor flew him out there, had him spar 12 rounds the next day, something like that, and worked him over pretty. And then they released video footage of it. And Paulie's upset, and I think rightfully so. I think Conor, from what I've heard, Brandon Schaub says that Conor is a guy that will hold grudges, and Paulie in the past talked about how he'd be able to beat Conor with one hand tied behind his back. So this was kind of payback from Conor, which, is that the right way to do it? I mean, if you're the toughest guy, Conor, give him a chance to train, set up a real fight. If you're really that tough, don't fly him out and have him spar 12 rounds when he's not in fighting shape, and then release video footage of you at your best points. I don't know. I like Conor, but there's just a few things with this fight lead up that I didn't like. I thought have made him look bad. But as an MMA fan, I'm still rooting for him. Let's be honest. That's another thing I've kind of figured out is these boxing reporters, these boxing fans think MMA fans are dumb because we're looking forward to this fight. But I don't hear a lot of UFC, MMA reporters, fans, analysts saying Conor's going to win and it's going to be easy. But that's how the boxing reporters are making it out to be. It's kind of a straw man. They're saying, well, UFC fans are dumb because they say Floyd's going to get knocked out by Conor. But I'm not hearing people say that. I'm hearing people say they want Conor to win. They want Conor to knock out Floyd. They want this to happen, but I think a lot of them are like me, where they don't think that's going to happen. I mean, for all the things Floyd is, he's a great boxer. He's been boxing all of his life, and no one can land that many hard punches on him. He's that great of a defensive fighter. He doesn't take damage. And he's 49-0. 49 other boxers who have trained their entire lives haven't been able to do it. And I have no doubt that Conor's been training his entire life in boxing, but it hasn't been the sole focus. So the only hope is that he's got this strange, different fighting technique, boxing style that Floyd's not going to be used to. It's going to be perplexing to him. He's going to come from different angles and hope that his left-hand power, that's his left-hand shot, his KO shot is going to land on Floyd and he'll be able to overwhelm him. He's bigger. He's longer. I don't think he's faster than Floyd, though. Even though Floyd's 40, I don't think he's faster. But I have hope. It's weird because I've learned to never doubt Conor because he's proven me wrong whenever I've bet against him or thought the other fighter was going to win. He goes out and does exactly what he says he's going to do. But I think that there's limits to that. There's limits to self-belief, especially if someone else is just physically more gifted than you in this area. And I think that might be the case with Floyd. And I kind of think I'm leaning that Floyd's going to win 12 rounds to nothing. I don't think he's going to lose a round. I think he's going to work over Conor pretty good. I think he's got a chance of TKOing Conor too, to be honest, which will be interesting to see how Conor handles that. But I'm also hoping I can kind of see this happening too. Conor winning in like the second round. He overwhelms him. He lands the left hand and just pummels him. I don't think that's very likely, but I have hope, and I wouldn't be completely shocked if it happened. Would you? Hit me up. Hit me up on my podcast page. Hit me up on my Facebook page or Twitter page and let me know your thoughts. I'm stoked. Something interesting. I'm going to be in Iowa, in a smaller town in near Okoboji, in Iowa, performing comedy in an Elks Lodge with my main man, Nick Allen, the night of the fight. So I'm going to have to find a way to watch the fight. I'm going to either have to turn off my phone and watch it the next day, or we're going to have to find a bar in Iowa to post up in and watch this fight. What do you guys think I should do? I don't know. I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be a great spectacle. I think it's going to make a lot of money. And it's just intriguing. Whether the fight delivers or not, it's been intriguing. It's been an intriguing lead up to a fight. And I think if you watch it, you're going to have fun. It might not be the most exciting fight. It might be the most exciting fight. That's part of the fun. You don't know what you're going to get. It's kind of like gambling. You don't know if you're going to win or lose. But there's a chance you might win. There's a chance you might see something really crazy. Final prediction. Floyd Mayweather by decision. 12 rounds to 0. My hope. Conor by TKO. Third round. And that's it for this episode of the John Thome Podcast. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sticking with the podcast throughout this long hiatus. I'm going to crank these out faster now. I hope. Fingers crossed. Like the Facebook page. Follow on Twitter. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts at. Give the podcast a positive review if you feel like it deserves one. Special shout out to Keith Furtwanger and the Beat Seekers for the John Thome song. I love it. I hope you love it. Shout out to Steve LaMountain for making the John Thome Podcast shirt. Hit me up if you want one. Shout out to Pat D'Angelo for making all the John Thome Podcast graphics. They're excellent. Much love to Jake Kuzella for providing music to the John Thome Podcast. I hope you all have a great rest of your week, a great rest of your summer. Get out there and enjoy it. One love.